We are excited to welcome you to our Eric Quill introductory press conference. We announced Eric's hiring on November 20th. Obviously, Thanksgiving was last week, and everybody was spending time with family while Eric, I know, was driving across the Southwest. He can get into that in just a moment. But today, we're going to have the chance to visit with Eric, and you'll get the chance to meet him and understand his approach to FC Dallas. Obviously, at today's press conference, we have FC Dallas Chief Soccer Officer Andre Zanota, FC Dallas President Dan Hunt, FC Dallas Chairman and CEO Clark Hunt, as well as new FC Dallas head coach Eric Quill here as well. We are streaming this press conference on YouTube. When we open it up to questions, we simply ask that you raise your hand. We have Raul right over here working the microphone. He'll bring you the microphone. Take the microphone, just identify yourself and address to whom you would like to ask the question. And with that, we will kick off our press conference with FC Dallas Chairman and CEO Clark Hunt with his opening remarks.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here today. This is an exciting day for FC Dallas and our fans. We are committed to building a championship organization here at FC Dallas, and today we are thrilled to introduce a leader who shares that vision and has a proven track record to achieve it. We are delighted to welcome back to Frisco as the head coach of FC Dallas, Eric Quill. This hire is a product of an extensive search process that yielded a diverse candidate pool of outstanding finalists. I want to thank Andre Zanota for leading the process and for helping us hire an outstanding coach like Eric. When you're lucky enough to have a variety of great candidates, you naturally focus on what makes the candidate different. We feel that Eric is uniquely positioned for success here, and I'll share with you a few reasons why. First of all, he's familiar with the organization. Not only did he play here in a Dallas Burn jersey, but he coached here and led North Texas Soccer Club to a championship while earning Coach of the Year honors. He has broad experience and a wide knowledge of the game of soccer. He has played and coached at every level: youth teams, college teams, professional teams, and the U.S. national team. He understands the perspective of a player, he knows how to communicate his philosophy, and he has top-notch tactical knowledge on the pitch. Eric is also committed to player development. That, of course, is a hallmark of our organization. For FC Dallas to reach our goals, it is crucial that we develop players from an early age and that we have leaders who are committed to our homegrown program. Eric understands that player development starts early and requires total buy-in from the entire organization. He has the ability to build positive relationships with players while also holding them accountable. Lastly, and most importantly, Eric is a proven winner. When he joins an organization, he quickly elevates the level of play, and he raises the bar both on and off the field. Eric has had success as a head coach at every level, from the youth all the way up to the professional level. He sets championship expectations, and he knows how to develop a championship culture. These are some of the qualities that we look for in a head coach, and this is what makes Eric Quill the right leader for FC Dallas. We are excited to welcome him, along with his wife Susan and their 4 children, back to Frisco. Now I'll turn it over to Dan to say a few words.
Thank you guys for being here today. Obviously, it's incredibly exciting to welcome Eric back to Frisco and his entire family. I got to work with Eric for 3 years on NTSC, and the winning mentality, building a championship culture, these are innate in Eric, and what makes him so special, and that competitive desire to be the best. So we're excited about what he's going to do here. I think he's going to build a culture with a winning mentality, and unify this group so that we can have success going forward. And Eric has shown that he is a top developer of young talent. If you look at the pedigree of players that have come through NTSC and that have gone on to play for the national team and gone on to play Europe, and in Europe, it's really remarkable. So it is our great pleasure to bring Eric back to Frisco, Texas, and lead FC Dallas. And also, I want to take a moment and thank Peter for his efforts here at the club in 2024. He did a great job leading the organization, but we're excited about this change in culture that's coming with Eric and his new staff that we'll be installing. And this is a great moment for FC Dallas. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Clark. Thanks, Dan. Before we open it up to questions, want to hear from Eric very quickly. So you played here as a member of the Burn in 2004. You coached here and led North Texas to their inaugural USL League One title in 2019. And now you're here as FC Dallas's head coach. What does this mean to you?
No, it's I have to pinch myself because it's unbelievable to think that to get to be a part of this organization 3 different times. And I think the world of this place, the energy inside the walls, the people that have made this place what it is truly outstanding. It was one of the toughest things to ever decide 3 years ago to leave. It really was, because I loved every minute I was here. And to get a chance to come back and do it again and lead the first team is truly an honor. And I really appreciate the belief that Clark and Dan and Andre bestowed in me, and I want to repay that with a championship.
I know you've been busy. Andre, you've been meeting with Eric and the front office staff the past couple of days since everybody returned to the office on Monday. How will you build this roster to suit Eric's style of play?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We since the end of the season and even before, we were already working on, we know we need to improve. And as Dan and we mentioned in our last press conference here, we understand where the areas of the team that we need to improve, and now with Eric, things are moving faster, and hopefully we'll be able to sign players that we just like we felt with Eric, his hunger to be here, his desire to be here. That's what we want to. We know he's gonna want this from the players, and we're working on to find players that really have the desire to play for FC Dallas, and believe that we can have a championship team with Eric. So we're working on this, and hopefully soon we're going to start adding players that the fans are going to be very excited to see on the field.
Great. Thank you. And with that, we'll open it up to questions. Again, if you wouldn't mind just raising your hand, Raul will bring you the microphone. We'll go over here to the front to Abraham. If you wouldn't mind, we know who you are, but if you wouldn't mind just identifying yourself and addressing to whom you're asking the question.
Hello, good morning. Welcome, Eric. Abraham Noodles here with the Dallas Morning News. My question is for both Dan and for Eric. So, develop new talent, win games, make it to the playoffs. Isn't that too much to ask for a first-year MLS coach?
It's not just to make it to the playoffs. It's to lift trophies here, too. And no, it's not. We were close on making the playoffs this last year, and, we continue to produce great talents here. If you look at the success of NTSC winning a championship and the number of players coming through there, I think Eric will do a great opportunity developing those players. So we have incredibly high expectations. And I do have to say, one of my favorite things about Eric, after his 3 years here and leaving, he said, "I'm leaving so that I can come back as the head coach." And the belief in himself to work hard, to improve his skill set, to see how other people do things, to increase that knowledge base is what he's gone out and done, and he's had success where he's gone. The job he did in New Mexico was really remarkable, taking a team that was not a playoff team, not a perennial playoff team, and having them competed at such a high level. So our expectations are incredibly high for this team, but we have to be thoughtful as we work through this.
Hi, good morning. No, it's not too high of an expectation. I'm here to win. That's always been in my DNA. It doesn't matter timing. It's right away to get these guys understanding and the mentality shift and what becoming a team actually looks like. And that's what you're going to see is you'll see very quickly a team that's bought in, a team that fights together, and a team that you'll be super proud of. But you'll leave the stadium understanding the mentality of what FC Dallas is, and that's first priority is to change the mentality of this group.
Straight ahead to Sydney, please.
For Coach, hi, Sydney Staples, D210 Sports. You talk about that mentality, but what is it that you want FC Dallas to have? What do you see as that ideal mentality and player that you're going to be looking for?
Every player's got to be honest on both sides of the ball. There's no luxury players. It's everybody committed to the purpose and everybody hungry throughout an entirety of a game, not just in spells. So consistency is part of that mentality. It's got to be here. It starts on the training field. That's the battlefield, and that's where they're going to earn their minutes and their time. And the goal is to create a roster of really competitive human beings that want to play in front of this crowd, and know that every minute on that blade of grass outside matters to them and how much they play. And when you have everybody hungry, it's pretty powerful. And my job is to create that hunger in each person.
Over here to the left, please, to Drew.
Hey, this is for Coach Drew Epperly, Big D Soccer. Dan kind of alluded this already, but would you say this was a job that you kind of had an eye on while you were in New Mexico, in Columbus after you left NTSC? And was this kind of a dream gig for you?
100%. I mean, leaving here, like I said, was one of the toughest decisions I had to make, but with the purpose always, with the possibility of coming back. I didn't know the timing of which that would happen, but I've always followed FC Dallas, rooting for them since I left, but always in my mind, aspiring to one day be the head coach here. And so for it to happen now is unbelievable for me and my family, and one that I'm super excited about and relish the opportunity.
Over here to the right.
And just to add one thing that was curious when we were talking with the people in New Mexico, they mentioned to us that every time that after a New Mexico game, Eric would always go to his phone to check how FC Dallas did. So it was the first thing he did after the pitch was to check how was the score in FC Dallas game.
Hi, Carlos Nava with ESPN. Andre, what was the main reason to stop the last process and continue with a new process again? This is going to be the fourth new head coach debuting in the MLS. And what are you asking for minimum to the new head coach?
I didn't understand the first question, sorry.
What was the reason, the main reason? Because you are stopping the last process with Peter Luxen, beginning a new process. This is going to be the fourth head coach in the last 6 years, I think.
So Peter was under, and I want to also echo what Dan said and thank Peter a lot for amazing 6 years ahead with him. He's such an amazing guy, and we wish everything that all the success for him. But we knew when Nico left that Peter was on an interim basis, and we would start a process to see what we wanted for FC Dallas moving forward. And he knew that his interim role at the moment. So we had Lucci, Nico, and in this we had Marco as an interim coach for a moment, and now Peter. But now we're going to the third permanent head coach, and we feel there was a need for change, and all the things that I mentioned to Clark and Dan after the interview with Eric, that the things I heard with Eric were just what I think what we need here, and about mentality, about this hunger, and I know him well. We worked together 3 years, and I know what the quality of the person he is, and where he can take us. So I think was important. We discussed this a lot with Eric. Going to Columbus, having been a head coach in New Mexico, for him to grow, and now I think I'm sure he's ready to lead us, and we're ambitious. And what you asked the second about what we can achieve. So, we want a team that will compete and make our fans proud every game. That we can really make teams. I think we lost this year. Teams that come here, especially playing Toyota Stadium, they fear playing us. And as they said, we're ambitious. We want to win trophies, and obviously development players. This is in our DNA. We'll continue to develop, and this always. This is for first team, second team, academy. That's what we're here for. But the first team, obviously, the pressure for results. We know we have that. We won after this year that it was not a good year, and we feel that we're with the right players that we want to bring, and we need also on my side need to help Eric to have the players that he needs to have a strong team, so we can fight for all trophies that we play in 2025.
Right up here in the front.
Michelle Montaigne, WFAA. Dan, good to see you again. This question is for you. How important was it for you guys when evaluating coaches that Eric did have MLS experience? And then for you, Coach, what was the biggest thing you took away from your time or your 1 year with the crew?
Yeah, that was one of the main criteria. Obviously, you start with the things we all know. We want winners here. We want people who understand our culture, but at the same time can build a championship culture and bring players together. So those are the really important things. But MLS is a complicated league. It has a complicated set of rules that's different than anywhere else. And we had a great candidate pool, starting with over 100 coaches. And whittled down to a group of about 13, and then whittled down to 3 finalists. But Eric's understanding. Eric and I met every single week for 3 solid years when he was here. And while we spent a lot of time talking about NTSC and how we were going to go out and do things and how we were going to win and how he thought about the game and how he thought about the culture of the group, we also spent a lot of time talking about MLS and talking about how the league works, salary. We spent time on salary cap, scouting, and those things. So it was an education, I think, for both of us. And I was very appreciative of that time we got to spend together for 3 years, and obviously we had a ton of success doing it and having fun also doing it. It was such a special moment there. So, but that was a big one for us. We didn't want to have to start the learning curve with somebody who really didn't understand the rules. And every league around the world is unique. They have their own difficulties. They have their own excitement, their own opportunities, if you will. And so it was. I really cherish those 3 years and those meetings, and I look forward to having them every week.
Biggest takeaway for me moving to Columbus was I got to go work for a manager that's won 2 MLS Cups. I got to see a different culture. I got to see different player profiles. I got to see a different game model. I got to see a different management style. All of these things that, as human beings, we absorb and take away the things that we feel are necessary to add to our persona and managerial self. And that was valuable for me to spend a year with Caleb Porter and staff and those players like Darlington Nagbe, Cucho Hernandez, Steven Moreira, Lucas Zellerien. So getting to see those top talents and those profiles, how they train on a daily basis, the mentality of the team, seeing the league, week to week, and different game models that others are playing. So I tried to absorb as much as I could and take it to New Mexico and apply my craft. And I felt like that was a valuable step for me in this transition and why I'm here today. And so I'm hoping to keep growing myself. I'm never a finished version of who I need to be. So I've always got a growth mindset in which I ask the same thing of my players. And that's the expectation is for us to grow together, win together, love each other, and love our fans. We want our fans feeling like it's best money they spent all week was to come and watch us play. And that's what I'll be reminding of these guys every day that they're out here on the training field is why we're doing what we're doing.
Right back here in the back.
Hi, Eric. It's Owen Newkirk with FC Dallas Radio. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's been a couple years since you've been here. How much familiarity and carryover do you have with the current roster from when you were here last?
Yeah, like Andre said, I've been away, but I've followed closely every game that I can watch. I've watched. with scouting software, I could go back and watch all their games. So I'm well aware of the roster and the players, and we have great players here, and we've got great ambition on our side. And the plan is to build a roster that is championship bound in every profile. We want climbers, guys that are ambitious, that are internally driven. And when you have a collective 30-plus man roster of internally driven guys, you're going to win a lot of games.
Right over here, right.
Carlos Alvarado de FCD Spanish Radio. André, para ti, y luego Eric. André, esta temporada que pasó, casi en todos los partidos el MVP fue nuestro arquero, Marten Paz. Me imagino que ya trabajas para evitar eso, ¿no? De cara al próximo torneo, porque para de alguna manera restarle un poquito más de trabajo a las exigencias. Y para Eric, what do you want to improve from last season? What is your main concern?
Sí, bueno, bueno que tenemos un gran portero, ¿no? Es importante para todos los equipos empezar con un gran portero. Y la defensa es algo que estamos trabajando mucho. Necesitamos, una de las prioridades es traer nuevos centrales también. Esto fue muy discutido con Eric, la necesidad de mejorar la forma del equipo defender, que defender no son solo los centrales, no son solo los laterales, es un conjunto de todo el equipo. Empieza ahí con los delanteros y bueno, y es una cuestión de mentalidad también que vamos a ajustar y para que más y más tengamos Petar, Alan y los delanteros también ganando el MVP del partido.
Number one is the collective mentality. That's going to change. And then we're going to be very organized defensively, really stingy to break down, and honest in every profile. You can expect to see a collective group of hunger, and not just in some players. It's going to be across the board. And when we're organized and hard to break down, we're gonna create a lot of chances going forward. I know that. So we're gonna change the mentality, and you'll see that come game one.
Right up here in the middle to Sydney again.
Sydney Staples again for D210 Sports. When you have watched FC Dallas over these last little while, what are things that you've really liked that you've seen? And that's the question for Dan as well.
Yeah, it's always been a technical group here in Dallas. Guys that really comfortable with the ball. Petar and obviously Velasco coming back late. I mean, the pieces, Bernard Kamunga. There's some really exciting pieces going forward, and again, I think consistency's been lacking. They have performances that they look exceptionally sharp, and then there's a dip, and that's, for me, that's where mentality comes in, is that consistency. And we want to be, after a result, we want to go on winning streaks. It can't be one up, one down. We want to have a belief that we're going to be the aggressors game to game. No passengers. We're driving the tempo of games. We're front-footed. So they have the capability of that. I think it's just building that consistency inside the group. But this is a very good roster of players that, with some additions, will be very, very strong.
Yeah, I mean, Eric said it right. We had some great moments, and then we would take a step back, and great moments and take a step back. This is a group that's going to be able to score goals, and I know that Eric can manufacture goals. And we've seen him do it at the different places he's worked. He did it here for us, when at NTSC. Obviously, Ricardo Pepe was there, but you had to create those opportunities for Ricardo, and you've seen what his trajectory was or has been. And, in New Mexico was the same. And I tell you, when we played in the preseason against New Mexico, it was really an impressive group, being that they had just started, and the way they fought, the way they worked together, the way they created opportunities. I was proud to see what he had done at that moment in time. But there are many offensive weapons here. So we're going to be able to score goals, but we've got to be stingy on defense.
Over here to the left.
Player development has been mentioned a few times already. That. How important was that aspect of his resume in terms of him being the hire, and was that kind of to rekindle the development pathway through the first team?
Yeah, well, that's always been important to FC Dallas, and Eric has a unique perspective in having been a player for FC Dallas as well, and then part of North Texas soccer, which really serves as a link between the academy and the first team. It definitely was a consideration in our decision. We know that Eric understands the importance of the pathway, and also that you can use it to have success with the first team. It's not just about developing players, it's about developing players who can help you win a championship, and we think Eric can do that.
I'm sure there's a proven track record, and we've done such a great job of producing U.S. national team players here. And I think there was a couple years where we didn't produce as many as we would have hoped, and sometimes you go in these cycles. But we're in a great moment. I love what I see at our academy. I love our young players coming through. Obviously, I go back to NTSC in a championship season, and there are multiple talents there. But we're not just going to rely on young players. We've got to rely on the veterans and the top talents, the Allens, the Petars, players like that we have here that have high pedigree, because those are the ones that are going to help you lift trophies.
All right. If there are no more questions in the room, we are going to go to Zoom, and we have Nathan Hill with his hand raised. For those of you on Zoom who want to ask a question, please just raise your hand, and we will go right down the list. But we'll kick it off with Nathan. If you wouldn't mind just unmuting yourself, telling us who you are, although we know who you are, but just tell us who you are and to whom you're asking the question.
Hi there. Congratulations, Coach. My name is Nathan Hill with Afterburn Soccer, and this is a question for both Eric and for Andre. First, kind of a fan question that's been lingering out there, which is, what is your tactical vision as far as even as simple as three center backs on the back line? Is that something you've had time to begin to think about? And for both Eric and Andre, what is the process like as you evaluate the roster now with the head coach in place? Is that one-on-one conversations about how each player is going to fit? Is that hard conversations about how some players might not fit with this team going into 2025?
Yeah, so we're still building our game model, so formations are something we're going to be discussing. Nothing guaranteed right now, but the roster build is on its way, and we'll continue to speak with Sandro and Andre about best practices, formations, all that stuff coming soon down the road. But there's nothing guaranteed right now.
Yeah. So as Eric said, we're working on the roster right now, and just obviously we discuss every player that we have, how they can fit the way we want to play, and Sandro has been having meetings with Eric every day to discuss that and to discuss every player situation as well, and we've been with our scouting department. Just with the options that we have, we've been working on options for the different positions that we want to reinforce in our team, and now discussing with Eric what is the best fit for what we want. So and then it's the part that I came in and to try to make it viable to bring those players. So. We're very advanced in those stages now, and obviously, as I said before, when with Eric's arrival, things started working faster, and now we're just there will be the expansion draft next week, and some moves that are already happening within the league, and obviously international players that we're trying to sign. So we're hoping, we want to have. As the roster as complete as possible with the first day of the preseason. We know it's not easy with the visa situation and everything, but we want to, since day one, to try to have those players ready to start working with Eric and his team.
All right, we're going to go back to Zoom to Dan. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, third degree. Welcome back, Eric. Just wondered if you'd had a chance to put together your technical staff yet. You've obviously built a staff in New Mexico, but have previous history with both John Gall and Michelle with North Texas SC.
Yeah, we're in the process of building staff right now. A couple candidates trying to get over the finish line. So you can expect Michelle to join me in the first team. But the other names I won't say yet until we're officially over the finish line with them.
All right, thanks, Dan. We'll go to Jorge on Zoom.
Hi, Eric, welcome. The work in the academies has been excellent. How could you reflect that on the first team and win the first MLS Cup?
Yeah, that's a job that I have coming in the door. Is I need to start seeing our young talent, our second team, our U18s, 17s, 16s, down the line, and start to build who's our projections and timelines for some of these kids. But preseason is a great opportunity for our young talent projections to come in and show what they have and earn minutes. And so that's going to be the goal of preseason, to see is how many of our young bright talents are ready, and if they're not ready, how far away are they? And we got to develop plans for expediting these players that we believe are going to be in this stadium soon. And so that's what the first few months is going to be, evaluating those talents and putting together plans that we have with those projections that we hope to see on this field and playing in FC Dallas for many, many years.
All right. No other questions on Zoom? None in the room? We're not done yet. We do have a scarf here for a photo op and a nice little surprise. So if you guys don't mind just holding up the scarf here. Get a photo. You want to get in front of the table? Let's get in front of the table, guys. If you don't mind.